At exactly 6:14 in the morning, on March 5th, 2026, a man sat down in front of a laptop screen. He drank his coffee. He opened a spreadsheet. He changed one number. And in that exact moment, no explosion, no military order, no breaking news alert, 380 million people began paying the price. You are about to understand something that most economists, politicians, and geopolitical analysts will not tell you. Not because they don't know, but because it destabilizes too much of what they've built entire careers defending. This is the story of how the world actually works. Not the story you were taught in school, not the story you watch on the news. This is the story that happens in rooms you are not allowed to enter. This morning, a decision was made. You weren't in the room, neither was your government. 20 million barrels every single day, forced through a gap just 33 kilometers wide. The world is obsessed with what happens if that corridor closes. But what happens if it just hesitates? The math has already changed. Not in a war room, in a spreadsheet. You just don't have the clearance to see it yet. But before we enter that room, we need to go back to 1973. Because what happened in October of 1973 was the first draft of this exact script, and the world chose to forget it. October 1973, OPEC cut the cord on the Western world. Not a bomb, not a fleet, just a decision made in a room. Oil prices rose 400% in 4 months. The US economy contracted, the stock market lost half its value, and the world learned a lesson. They thought the lesson was build strategic oil reserves. But that wasn't the real lesson. The real lesson was whoever controls the flow controls everything. Not the country with the largest army, the country that controls where the oil passes through. And from 1973 to 2026, that place never changed. It only got narrower, only became more fragile, only became more dangerous. The Strait of Hormuz, width at its narrowest point, 33 kilometers. Volume of oil passing through 20% of the world's total supply. Every day, approximately 20 million barrels. To give you a sense of that number, if this flow stopped for 30 days, Japan would exhaust its fuel reserves in 11 days. South Korea in 9 days. A significant portion of Asia within 2 weeks. And here is the strangest part. No one actually owns this strait. No one was elected to protect it. No contract guarantees it will always be open. It's just open because no one has had enough reason to close it yet. Until they did. Let's talk about how the world was built. After World War II, the major industrial nations made a decision. Not a decision that was voted on. Not a decision that was announced. Just a logic that gradually won out because it made more money than anything else. They called it just in time. Just in time means don't stockpile raw materials, don't hold inventory, don't build in any slack. The microchip in your engine leaves a factory in Southeast Asia on Monday, gets on a ship on Tuesday, gets assembled in Detroit on Friday. No warehouse, no buffer, no time. This system saves trillions of dollars every year, and it turned the entire global economy into a single chain of dominoes. The just-in-time system has one property, just one. But that property is fatal. It only works when everything works. No room for delay, no tolerance for uncertainty, no memory buffer when the world gets strange. In 2021, you watched a ship get stuck in the Suez Canal. The MV Ever Given. 6 days. One ship stuck for 6 days. Estimated cost approximately $9.6 billion per day in disrupted trade. Total more than $50 billion in affected commerce. Because of one ship, 6 days. No war, no bomb, just strong winds, and a ship too big for the channel. The world looked at that and laughed, made memes about the little excavator, and moved on. Nobody asked, what happens if it's not 6 days? What if it's not one ship, but one decision? But here is what no one tells you about Suez. 80% of analysts treated it as an incident, an accident, something that wouldn't happen again. The other 20% treated it as a simulation. A simulation for the question, what happens when it's not wind that stops a ship, but a decision that stops every ship? That answer arrived in March 2026, but not in the way you think. Early 2026, a fracture appeared, deep in the data you are never shown. Insurance premiums, war risk matrices, dark vessel routing, Reuters caught the signal. The signal was a number no one had seen before. The market reacted, not with panic. Panic is for the public. The market chose a quiet surgical amputation. Capital doesn't wait for headlines, it evacuates on probability. They were already pricing in a future that hadn't happened yet. So what exactly did they see in the data? And who pulled their money out before you were allowed to know? No explosion, no blockade, no primetime address to the nation. That is exactly why it worked. You were trained to wait for violence. The collapse arrived as math. March 5th, 2026. A fractional spike in risk ratings, not a catastrophe. A single legal wire tripped. Risk rises. Insurers reprice. Credit freezes. The docks go silent. The paralysis doesn't stay on the water. 20 million barrels delayed by 48 hours. Asian refineries begin to choke. European manufacturing follows within the week. The infection travels at the speed of a wire transfer. No military order was given. No order was required. This is the paradox that breaks empires. The strait is physically open and entirely empty. When a navy closes a waterway, you send a fleet, you negotiate. But a strait that is politically open, yet commercially radioactive? There is no one to bomb. There is no one to call. No one gave the order. Fear and profit gave it simultaneously, faster than a Security Council could even convene. So where was the kill switch actually pulled? Not in a bunker, in a room you have never been allowed to enter. The year this organization was founded, 153 years. It operated before you knew its name. $3 trillion, the value of global assets that depend on its decisions. There is an organization you have never heard of. Every ship on the ocean needs this organization's approval to exist. Not the United Nations approval, not NATO's, not any elected governments. An insurance committee in London. Forget the ships. You are staring at the wrong battlefield. There is a room. Most of the world will never be allowed inside, but every vessel in the strait asks this room for permission to exist. The Joint War Committee, London. No uniforms, no elected officials, just actuaries. But here's what they don't teach you. The Joint War Committee is not a new organization. They have done this before. 3 times, 1980, the Iran-Iraq War, tankers were being attacked in the Persian Gulf. The JWC reclassified the zone. Insurance premiums rose 7-fold. Oil trade dropped 25% in 60 days. Not because war closed the strait, because insurance made it commercially impossible to pass through. The first draft of 2026, and the world chose to forget it. March 5th, 2026. The corridor was quietly reclassified. No breaking news, no sirens, just a keystroke. Step back. Look at the architecture. That single keystroke paralyzed more oil than a fleet of submarines. The real choke point isn't geographical, it's financial. But here's what no one is telling you. Someone knew before that keystroke happened. Not one day before, 3 weeks before. In the 3 weeks before March 5th, unusual spikes in options contracts betting on rising oil prices appeared in derivatives markets in London, Singapore, and Dubai. Bloomberg documented this. The SEC investigated. No one was charged. Who pulled their money out before you were allowed to know? That question still has no answer, and that is the most terrifying part. The IMF tracks the contagion. A disruption at this scale rewires global markets in exactly 18 days. Do you remember the first thing you heard in this video? The collapse doesn't arrive as an army, it arrives as an invoice. So who actually controls the world's most dangerous waterway? Not the generals, the actuaries. The same morning, the same moment. 4 people who have never heard of each other, all about to receive the same invoice. Mumbai, 4:47 in the morning. Rajesh is standing at the pump. 6 weeks ago, 400 rupees. Today, 1,800. Same tank, same drive. He doesn't know the corridor was reclassified. He will never see the spreadsheet in London. He only knows that after fuel today, he has to choose what his family doesn't get. 2 children. He calls home. She answers. He doesn't explain. There is no explanation that changes the math. Osaka, 7:23 in the morning, the same day. Kenji is an operations manager at an oil refinery. He has worked there for 22 years. This morning, he received a call from procurement. The next shipment has been delayed indefinitely. His facility has 11 days of reserve. 11 days. After that, 4,700 employees will be placed on temporary leave. And a significant portion of Western Japan's power grid will move to rolling blackouts. Kenji looks through his office window at the working plant below. He doesn't call anyone. There is no one to call. Nobody wrote this clause into the contract. Rotterdam, 1:15 in the afternoon. Hana is a shipping broker. For 14 years, her job has been scheduling vessels. Today, no vessel will accept a booking. Not because the strait is closed, because no insurance underwriter will back the voyage. She calls 17 underwriters, 17 rejections. None of them said no because of war. They said no because the probability had changed. Hana looks at her screen. 12 ships waiting on bookings, approximately $800 million in cargo. Nothing moves. No order forbids it from moving. The math simply doesn't allow it. Lagos, 8:40 in the evening. Amara is a nurse. She knows nothing about the Strait of Hormuz. She only knows that today, the hospital's generators ran low on fuel, and the price to refuel has doubled in 3 weeks. The hospital has money for 7 more days. Amara looks through the window of the ICU ward. Inside, 14 patients on ventilators. She doesn't connect this to a strait 7,000 kilometers away. No one ever taught her that everything is connected like this. That is exactly why the system survives. This is how the real collapse lands, not with an explosion, with a quiet subtraction, invisible to anyone not bleeding from it. The system didn't break. It just redistributed the pain, because gravity always pulls the cost downward. You already knew something was deeply wrong. You just didn't have the language for it. So when does it stop? When the committee closes the laptop. That's the answer. And that is the terrifying part. But here is what no one wants you to understand. Hormuz is not the only one. These are the 7 global choke points. Each one controls a critical portion of something you use every day. The Strait of Malacca, between Malaysia and Indonesia, 90,000 ships per year. 40% of global trade. The same insurance architecture, the same single point of failure, the Taiwan Strait. This isn't only about warships. 92% of the world's most advanced semiconductors are manufactured 160 kilometers from that water. Marine insurance for vessels carrying chip-making equipment is being restructured right now. The Panama Canal. Do you know what happened in 2023? A drought. Reservoir levels fell to historic lows. Ship transits dropped 36%. No bomb, no army, just weather. The Cape of Good Hope, the detour route when Suez is blocked. But Somali piracy is returning, and insurance premiums on that route are moving the same way Hormuz moved 18 months before anyone noticed. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, Yemen. In 2024, attacks killed 40% of Red Sea shipping. You paid for that. Every time you ordered something online, you just didn't know what it was called. The Danish Straits. Undersea cables on the ocean floor. Not oil, not cargo. The internet, data. Every digital communication you make. In the last 4 years, 3 mysterious cable cuts, and finally, the one you haven't heard of yet. We'll cover that in the next video. All 7 of these choke points share the same structure, the same dependence on continuity, the same assumption that someone, somewhere, is watching over them, the same absence of one critical question. What happens when insurance says no? And here's what keeps me up at night. Nobody is planning for that. No congressional hearings, no G20 emergency framework, no public conversation, just insurance committees quietly restructuring the world. Because right now, that same committee is looking at a different corridor, a different choke point, a different set of ships, a different country's refineries, a different dependency that nobody thought to map, and you don't know its name yet. But the math is changing. The same fatal flaw, a different invoice, and tomorrow morning will feel completely normal. Until it doesn't, Daphne.